Hello? Hello? Okay, it looks okay, great. Sorry about that. We were facing some technical difficulties. Sorry about that. We were facing some technical difficulties. All right, so let's start again. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another LazyArquitecto live stream. I believe we're gonna start calling these lazy streams, so that way it's quick and easier to remember. So welcome to these new lazy streams where we teach you AutoCAD in a way that is more productive, so you can stop wasting your time. So we're gonna have an awesome presentation today. We're gonna have some time to do Q&A also by the end of the presentation. So let's start right away. Hope you are doing great today. Let me start preparing over here. Okay. How are you doing today? Let me know on the chat because we are live. Okay, let me check something over here. Okay. Let me see. Let me erase this and let me go ahead. Okay. So let's just start right away then. I think we are ready to start. Okay. So let me open this up. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's start. On my screen, I have a multi-page PDF I need to insert into my AutoCAD drawing in its own layout. I could do this manually and try to create a new layout. Go ahead and rename this, maybe A5.0. Use the PDF attach command to bring up my PDF. In this case has 10 pages. Bring that out and select all of the pages that I need. Of course, I will have to select only one page at a time, because if I select everything and click insert, you're gonna see that all of the pages are gonna be inserted on top of each other. I will have to create another tab, move it there. Not only that, but I will have to attach my title block, which was already here, and I will have to do my page setup for each layout tab. So you can imagine this is a tedious task. So let's see how we can streamline this process and automate it. All right. So let me go ahead and undo a couple of times to erase what we just did. All right. So in this case, we're gonna create a command, a custom command or custom program. We're not gonna use macros for this one just because we need more power than macros. So what we're gonna use is Lisp. Again, if you don't know anything about Lisp, it's simply another way to create a custom command here in AutoCAD. Okay, so the way I'm gonna start is very easy. I am gonna open my folder, of course, my Windows Explorer folder, which is right here. with my PDF, and that's my title block, which is right here. So I'm gonna create a, I'm gonna say right click and say new and say text document. Okay, so this is gonna be the name of my command. In this case, I wanna call it lazy PDF layouts, because again, this is a way for me to quickly insert PDFs in its own layout. Now, the important part is that we rename the extension to LSP, which is the extension for a Lisp custom command or program. So I'm gonna press enter and say yes to accept that. So once we open this up by double clicking on it, of course we can open it with Notepad in this case, but I like to use this Notepad Plus because it gives you better graphics to read the code. So that's why I'm gonna use that one. Okay, so it's right here. So to start, let me go ahead and open this out really quick. So we have a reference here. Oops. Okay, 1 second. Oops, what I just did. Okay. All right. All right. So to start, what we need is, again, create a program with the name of our command that we already know that. So what we're gonna do is start with this define option, and here's where we're gonna place our command. In this case, I want to call it lazy PDF layouts. That's the command, and I'm gonna give a space, which means an enter in a Lisp program. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is add a couple of parentheses with this slash that we're gonna add variables while we start explaining. So, and then I'm gonna press an enter and close the parentheses over here. So when we open a parenthesis in a Lisp, we also need to always close it. And here in the center is where we can add our code. But that's the very basics, how we should always start, again, using the define option that is gonna be the name of our tool. 1 second, please. All right, sorry about that. So once we have our name of our command, what I like to do first is I like to insert the PDF, of course, right? That's the main thing that we need. So in this case, I am gonna use the following code. I'm gonna go ahead and say paste. Of course, I'm gonna keep it separated. I'm gonna leave a space here and a space here at the bottom so we don't confuse what we don't need to touch. So what we're doing here with this small piece of code is we're setting a variable, in this case called PDF path, because we need a path, right, to find the file of our PDF. And let me add it over here. So I'm gonna say PDF path. So the reason why we need to add any variable that we use in this command using this slash is so they are local. They are only used in this command, and they don't conflict with any other program or command inside AutoCAD. That's the main reason, to keep our code nice and clean. Right? So what we're doing again is getting the file location, in this case of our PDF. Not only that, but we are setting another variable, in this case called int pt. Again, this can be anything, but I just made it short for insertion point. So we need to add that variable also over here. So int pt, which is again the variable for insertion point, which is a command that in AutoCAD, when we use the PDF attach, will ask us for insertion point. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're utilizing the PDF attach, in this case the command line version of it, so that we can run it here in Lisp. So let's see what we did so far. I'm gonna click save over here, and then to test this command is very easy. All we need to do is click and drag it here in AutoCAD and release it. You can see it says C lazy PDF layouts. That's the name of our command. So let's test it. Lazy PDF to layouts. I'll press enter. And now we get this dialog box to select our PDF. So I'm gonna go ahead and find it really quick, which is right here. It's a finish schedule, but in your case can be anything that has multi pages on your PDF. So I'm gonna click open, and now we have the first, or one of the first variables. Remember, we said the insertion point. So it says pick insertion point. So what I can do is, of course, pick insertion point right here, and boom, you can see the PDF was successfully inserted here in AutoCAD. Now, I see a couple of problems already. We, of course, need to insert all of the pages. And also another problem is the scale of the PDF. Most of the time we'll have different sizes. So I need a way to control that. So let's fix first the first problem about scale. So let me go ahead and undo a couple of times. All right. So let me go ahead and bring the code over here and expand it so we can see better. So now let's see how we can add a prompt or a question for the user, for you or for me in this case. So the way I'm gonna do it is using this other small portion of the code. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste it really quick since I already have it. So I'm gonna say paste. So what we're doing here is we're setting another variable, in this case the variable scale. And always when we set a variable, we always need to add it here also. So scale. So that way, again, it only works for this command, not for anything that it has that may be the same name inside the AutoCAD program. So that's what we're doing, simply adding a scale variable and saying, hey, enter the scale for this PDF insertion. We are even giving an example here. Okay, so let's also, when we do this variable for the scale, we need to also add it here under the PDF command, and that's what we're doing with this scale option, again, to get the X and Y values. All right, so that's all we're doing. So let me go ahead and save, and let's test it so far what we did. So I'm gonna go ahead and click and drop it over here, and let's go ahead and use the lazy PDF layouts, and press enter. And as you can see, let me find my PDF in this case. Let's hit open. And now we have a new prompt, a new question. It says enter scale for the PDF insertion. This is nice because again, we'll have different sizes of PDFs. In this case, I'm gonna say 0.8 and press enter. Now it says pick insertion point. So I'm gonna go ahead and click my insertion point right about here. And boom, my PDF was inserted nicely and perfectly in this case. Now, let's fix the other problem now, because we only have one page, and in our case, our finish schedule was, I believe, 10 pages. So, let's see how we can insert all of those pages. Okay, so for that, let me undo a couple of times. All right. Let me check my extra, so the PDF is not attached. All right, so let's see how we can do that. So I'm gonna go back to our code over here. And I'm gonna say, select the code that we are currently using, and I'm gonna use this other portion of the code. I'm gonna hit paste. And what we're doing here is, again, we don't want to insert just one page, right? Our PDFs might have 10, 20 pages, who knows? But the idea is that we are adding another variable. Yes, in Lisp, we mostly work with variables. So in this case, we're adding the num pages for number of pages. And in that case, we also need to add that variable over here, again, to avoid any conflicts. So num pages right there. So, and of course, with a prompt that says enter the number of pages to import. So after that, we are also adding another variable. In this case, we're adding the variable called I. In this case, again, variables, you can use any name or character. In this case, I'm using I to keep it simple. But this variable is gonna help us loop using this function while. It's gonna help us loop the PDF's pages. And in this case, we're adding 1 to that variable, as you can see, +1, because that way we can insert the next page, page 2, 3, and 4, and always we'll be looping this. Okay, so let's not forget to add the variable I over here. So I'm gonna add I. So that's what we're doing pretty much. Okay, so let's test it really quick. I'm gonna save this and test it. Click, drag it, and drop it. Let's just lazy PDF layout. Find our PDF. Open. Enter the number of PDF pages. You can see that's a new prompt now. In this case, I know my PDF has 10 pages. So I'm gonna say 10, press enter. Now it's asking for the scale. We know 0.8 was perfect. And now we need to click our insertion point. As you can see, the PDFs were inserted. And if I move this, you can see they were inserted in the same location. So that's a problem, right? But at least we're making progress. So you'll see that all of the PDFs were there. All right, so now what we need to do is somehow create a copy of the current layout, which has already our title block and anything that we need, and insert those PDFs pages on each of those copied layouts. So let's see how we can do it. So let me undo first, or let me remove all of these or detach all of these PDFs. So let's see how we can do that, guys. So for that, I'm gonna go ahead and open our code, and we're gonna again select the portion of the code, and I'm gonna use this following code over here. Now in this one, what we're doing is again adding a couple of variables. Not insertion, not scale, but we want the layout name in this case. Everywhere where you see setQ, that's because we're setting a variable. So before we forget, let's add the layout name variable over here under this portion of the code. So again, to avoid any conflicts. So we're setting a layout name because we need that in order to copy that layout name. And also we need a name for our layouts, right? In this case, how are we gonna differentiate here in CAD from the layout name that was copied from the base layout, which was this one that has our title block? Well, that's why we are setting another variable, in this case layout name, which we already added, but we're also adding the base name for, again, the layout. So let's go ahead and add that one over here also. Again, those are different. One is for the base name, meaning the original one that we're gonna copy, and the other one for the new layouts. Now, in each layout, we're gonna need also to rename it again. So that's why we added the base name. Okay, so additionally, let me go over here and let me inspect this really quick. Okay, so additionally, we're adding another variable called initial layout. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that before I forget over here under this portion of the code. So again, to avoid any conflicts. So we have initial layout, we have base name. That's gonna be the name that we that a prompt is gonna ask for, because otherwise, how would you name your layouts, right? Sometimes we might need to start from a 5.0, a 5.1, and so on. So that's why we need a way to tell our command that, to instruct it. Okay, so all right, so again, we have base name, we have initial layout and base name, and layout name, which we already added here. And then we are executing the PDF command again as before. So let's go ahead and test this. I'm gonna click save and go ahead and drag it here inside our command, inside AutoCAD, I mean. Oops, I just noticed something. The name is not right. Paste lazy PDF layouts. I'm gonna save and let me go ahead and test it. Click, drag it, say lazy PDF layout, center. I'm gonna, of course, find my PDF with 10 pages. So I'm gonna say 10. The scale is gonna be 0.8. My insertion point is gonna be right above here. And now we have a new prompt, a new question. It says enter the base layout name. So let's say, for instance, this needs to be an 8.1.0. Of course, we're also providing an example here. In this case, we don't need to include a 0, so I'm gonna erase that because I want everything to start from a 1 point and then of course the number. So I'm gonna press enter, and you can see what happened. New layouts were created immediately here in AutoCAD, which is great. So now I can go ahead and go to my next one, and my PDF was inserted successfully there also, which is great. Awesome. So of course this code I will need to add a couple of more variables over here, since what happens if you cancel the command, or what happens if you, I don't know, undo or cancel in the middle of the command. You will have or encounter errors. So that's why we still need to add a couple of these errors handler here in this Lisp. But you can see the powerful of this lazy PDF layouts command, and hopefully it's gonna save you so much time as it does for me every time I use it in the architectural office. Okay, so let me know on the chat, what do you think about this command, these lazy PDF layouts that we created today? Let's see if we have any comments on the chat. Okay, let's see if there are any comments. Of course, I'm gonna share this Lisp with you, the final file with the error handlers and all of that, and I'm gonna share it in a post. Let me see if I can do that right now before I forget. Let me know on the chat if you have any questions. We're almost wrapping this up. Okay. All right, if there are no questions, we're gonna stop right here and start thinking on our next week's topic. All right, so have a wonderful rest of the day, my friend. Bye bye.